I never thought a 7-year-old could shatter a man's carefully constructed walls with a single question, but that's exactly what Emma did on a cold November morning in 2023. The Veterans Day parade in our small Pennsylvania town of Millbrook was in full swing. Main Street was decorated with American flags fluttering in the crisp autumn wind, their red and white stripes dancing against the gray sky. The smell of hot chocolate and coffee from the local diner mixed with the distant sound of the high school marching band playing patriotic songs. I stood there with my daughter Sarah and my granddaughter Emma, watching veterans march past us in their dress uniforms, some in wheelchairs, others walking with canes, all wearing their service with pride. Emma tugged at my jacket sleeve, her small hand persistent. Her blonde pigtails bounced as she looked up at me with those innocent blue eyes that reminded me so much of my late wife, Catherine. "Grandpa Jack, why aren't you wearing a uniform like those men?" I felt my chest tighten. "I'm not a veteran, sweetie," I said, keeping my voice steady even as old memories threatened to surface. The parade continued, and we made our way to the town's memorial wall, a beautiful granite structure erected 10 years ago to honor all the men and women from Millbrook who had served in the military. Names were engraved in alphabetical order, organized by conflict: Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan. The wall told the story of our town's sacrifice across generations. Emma ran ahead, her pink winter coat bright against the somber gray stone. She traced her small fingers over the names, reading aloud the ones she could pronounce. Then she turned to me with that look children get when they're trying to solve a puzzle. "Grandpa, your last name is Morrison, right?" "That's right, Emma." She scanned the wall methodically, her finger moving from name to name. "There are other Morrisons here. James Morrison, Robert Morrison, but I don't see your name. Why isn't your name on the wall with theirs?" The world seemed to stop. Sarah's hand found my shoulder, but I barely felt it. Around us, other families were taking photos, children were playing, veterans were shaking hands and sharing stories. But in that moment, all I could hear was Emma's question echoing in my mind. "Because I didn't serve, honey," I managed to say. "But why not? You're always telling me stories about being brave and doing the right thing." Before I could answer, old George Patterson, a Vietnam veteran who lived 2 streets over, approached us. He was wearing his Marine Corps dress blues, his chest decorated with medals that represented sacrifices I could only imagine. "Jack Morrison," he said with a nod. "Good to see you out here." "You too, George." Emma immediately pointed at his medals. "Wow, are you a hero?" George chuckled, his weathered face crinkling into a smile. "Just a Marine who did his job, little lady." "My grandpa's name isn't on the wall," Emma announced matter-of-factly, as only children can. "Why didn't you serve like Mr. Patterson, Grandpa?" The question hung in the cold November air. George's expression shifted slightly, not judgment, but understanding. He'd known me since we were kids. He knew the story I'd spent 50 years trying to forget. "Emma, let's get some hot chocolate," Sarah interjected, recognizing the look on my face. But the damage was done. The question had been asked, and for the first time in decades, I couldn't simply push it away. That night, lying in bed in the house Catherine and I had shared for 45 years before cancer took her, I stared at the ceiling and let myself remember. It was 1972. I was 18 years old, fresh out of Millbrook High School. The Vietnam War was still raging, though winding down. My 2 older brothers, James and Robert, the names Emma had seen on the memorial wall, had already been drafted. James came home in a flag-draped coffin in 1968. Robert made it back alive but left part of his soul in those jungles. He was never the same. I remember the day my draft notice arrived. My mother opened it at the kitchen table, her hands shaking as she read it. She'd already lost 1 son and watched another return as a shell of himself. When she looked at me with those tear-filled eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before. Pure, unfiltered terror. "Jack," she whispered, "I can't lose you too." What happened next shaped the rest of my life. My father, who worked at the county courthouse, knew people. My mother's brother was a doctor. Within a week I had a medical deferment. Flat feet, they claimed, though I'd played football for 4 years without any problems. The paperwork went through, and just like that I was exempt from service. I told myself I was doing it for my mother, that losing me would kill her after everything she'd endured, that my family had already given enough. But late at night, in the honest darkness, I knew the truth. I was afraid. I didn't want to end up like James, buried in Arlington. I didn't want to become like Robert, haunted and broken. So I took the deferment. I stayed home while friends and classmates went to war, Some came back, some didn't. And I built a life, went to community college, started a construction business, married Catherine, raised Sarah, a good life by any measure. But always lurking beneath the surface was the question I'd never allowed myself to fully confront. What if I'd gone? The morning after the parade, I couldn't shake Emma's question. It followed me through breakfast, through my usual Saturday routine of reading the newspaper and checking on the garden Catherine had loved so much. My phone rang. It was Sarah. "Dad, can we talk?" 30 minutes later, she was sitting at my kitchen table, the same one where my mother had opened my draft notice all those years ago. Sarah had her mother's gentle way of getting to difficult topics. "Emma's been asking questions all morning. She wants to know why you didn't serve." "I know," I said, pouring us both coffee. "I've been thinking about it too. She's too young to understand the full story. But Dad," Sarah paused, choosing her words carefully. "I'm not. I'm 42 years old, and I've never really understood either. You never talk about it. Growing up, whenever Vietnam came up, you'd change the subject." I sat down heavily in the chair that had been mine for decades. "Your mother knew. We talked about it once, early in our marriage. She told me it didn't matter, that who I was as a husband and father was what counted." "And she was right," Sarah said firmly. "But that doesn't mean it doesn't still affect you. I've seen how you look away during the national anthem at ball games, how you avoid the VFW hall even though half your friends meet there, how you never wanted me to join ROTC in college even though I was interested." Her words hit like physical blows because they were true. I'd spent 50 years running from something that had shaped every aspect of my life. "I took a deferment," I finally said. "Medical deferment for flat feet that weren't actually flat enough to matter. My father pulled strings. My uncle signed off on it. I stayed home while better men went to war." Sarah reached across the table and took my hand. "You were 18, Dad. You'd already lost one brother and watched another come home broken. No one can judge you for that." "I judge myself," I said quietly. "Every Veterans Day, every 4th of July, every time I see someone like George Patterson wearing his uniform, I wonder who I might have been if I'd had the courage to go." "Or you might have died," Sarah said, her voice cracking slightly. "And then I wouldn't exist. Emma wouldn't exist. Mom wouldn't have had 45 years with the love of her life." That's what I tell myself. But Emma's question made me realize something. I've spent my whole life trying to justify a decision I made when I was terrified and 18, and I've never really dealt with it. Sarah squeezed my hand. "So deal with it now. You're 70 years old, Dad. You've lived a good life. You've been a great father and an amazing grandfather. But if this is still eating at you after all these years, maybe it's time to do something about it." "Like what?" "I can't change the past." "No, but you can change how you live with it." After Sarah left, I sat in the quiet house for a long time. Then I did something I'd never done before. I drove to the VFW hall on the edge of town. The parking lot was half full on this Saturday afternoon. Through the windows, I could see veterans inside, playing cards, watching football on the big screen, sharing stories. I'd driven past this building thousands of times over the years, but never once gone inside. My hand was on the door handle when I heard a voice. "You coming in or just planning to sit out here all day?" It was George Patterson smoking a cigarette by the entrance. "I don't belong in there, George." "Why not?" "You know why." George took a long drag and exhaled slowly. "Jack, I've known you since we were kids playing stickball on Miller Avenue. You want to know what I think about your deferment?" I waited, bracing myself. "I think you were dealt an impossible situation at 18 years old, and you did what you thought you had to do. Just like I did when I enlisted. Just like your brothers did when they were drafted. We all made choices based on the information and circumstances we had. But you served. You went to war." "Yeah, I did. And you know what? Some days I wish I hadn't. Some nights I still wake up sweating, hearing things I wish I could forget. Your brother Robert? He never got past what happened to him over there. Is that really what you think you should have experienced?" "I don't know. Maybe I'd have been different. Maybe I'd have come back okay. Maybe. Or maybe you'd have ended up like James, and your mother would have buried 3 sons instead of 1. There's no way to know, Jack, and torturing yourself over it doesn't change anything. So what do I do? How do I make peace with it?" George crushed out his cigarette. "That's something only you can figure out. But standing out here in the cold, feeling sorry for yourself, isn't it? Come inside, have a beer. Listen to some old guys tell exaggerated stories about the good old days. You don't have to be a veteran to be welcome here. You just have to be someone who cares." I didn't go inside the VFW hall that day. I wasn't ready. But George's words stayed with me as I drove home through the familiar streets of Millbrook. That night, Emma called me on FaceTime, something she'd recently learned to do. Her face filled the screen, animated and excited. "Grandpa, I did a project at school today about Veterans Day." "That's wonderful, honey. What did you learn?" "We learned about how veterans protect our country and keep us safe." And Mrs. Henderson said that families of veterans are important too because they support them. She said military families are heroes in their own way. Something in her words struck me. Military families. My mother had been a military family member. She'd sent 2 sons to war and buried one of them. Robert's wife Linda had lived with his nightmares and struggles for decades before he finally found some peace through counseling in his later years. "Emma, can I ask you something?" "Sure, Grandpa." "When you asked me why my name wasn't on the wall, how did that make you feel?" She thought about it with that serious expression children get when they're really considering something. "I was confused because you're always the bravest person I know. You helped me when I was scared of the dark. You taught me to ride my bike even when I fell down, so I thought you would have been a soldier too." Brave. She thought I was brave. This little girl who knew nothing of my past, who only knew her grandfather, who fixed her toys and told her stories and made her pancakes shaped like animals, she thought I was brave. "You know what, Emma? I'm going to tell you a story tomorrow. A true story. Ask your mom to bring you over after church, okay?" The next day, Sunday, was crisp and clear. Sarah and Emma arrived just after noon, and I'd spent the morning preparing. I'd gone into the attic for the first time in years and found an old box I'd kept hidden even from Catherine. Inside were photographs of my brothers in uniform, letters James had sent home before he died, and Robert's medals, which he'd given me shortly before he passed away 3 years ago. We sat in the living room, Emma between Sarah and me on the couch. I spread the photographs on the coffee table. "These are your great-uncles, Emma, James and Robert. They were soldiers in the Vietnam War." Emma picked up a photo of James in his uniform, young and smiling, full of confidence and life. "He looks like you, Grandpa. People always said that. He was my big brother. He liked to play guitar and tell jokes. He wanted to be a teacher when he came home from the war. But he didn't come home." "No, honey, he died in Vietnam. He was 22 years old." Emma was quiet, processing this. "That's really sad." It was. It was the saddest thing our family ever went through. "And then this is Robert, my other brother." I showed her a photo of Robert, thinner than James, with serious eyes. He did come home, but the war changed him. He had bad dreams and felt sad a lot. "Did you help him, Grandpa?" "I tried. We all tried. And eventually, with a lot of help from doctors and people who cared about him, he got better. Not all the way better, but enough that he could have a happy life with his wife and kids." Sarah was watching me carefully, understanding where this was going. "Emma, when I was 18 years old, just out of high school, I got a letter saying I had to go to war too, like my brothers. But my mother had already lost James, and she was so scared of losing me too. And I was scared. So we found a way for me not to go. A doctor said I couldn't serve because of my feet, even though there wasn't really anything wrong with my feet. So you didn't have to be a soldier." "No, I didn't. And for 50 years I've wondered if I made the right choice. I felt guilty that I stayed home while other people went to war. That's why my name isn't on the memorial wall. I didn't serve." Emma looked at the photographs again, then at me. "But if you went to war, you might have died like Uncle James. And then my mommy wouldn't have been born. And then I wouldn't have been born. Out of the mouths of babes, as Catherine used to say. This child had cut right to the heart of it." "That's true," I said, "but it doesn't change the fact that other people went in my place." "But Grandpa, Mrs. Henderson said that families of veterans are important too. Your mommy was a military family member because her sons were soldiers, and you were too because your brothers were soldiers. So you did sacrifice something. You lost your brother James, and you had to watch your brother Robert be sad." I felt tears welling up in my eyes for the first time in years. Sarah put her arm around me. "You know what, Emma, you're absolutely right. I never thought of it that way." Monday morning, I woke with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I made a phone call that I'd been avoiding for decades. VFW Hall, George speaking. "George, it's Jack Morrison. Is your offer still good about coming by?" There was a pause. Then I heard the smile in his voice. "Absolutely. When were you thinking? How about today?" That afternoon, I walked through the doors of the VFW Hall for the first time. The interior was warm and welcoming. Wood-paneled walls covered with military memorabilia, photographs of local veterans spanning generations, a small bar area where a few men were watching a football game. George introduced me around. Most of the men there were Vietnam veterans like himself, though there were a few younger guys who'd served in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was honest with them about my story, about the deferment, about my brothers. I expected judgment or resentment, but instead, I found understanding. "My older brother didn't serve either," said Tom Reeves, who'd been a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. "Best thing that ever happened to our family. He stayed home, took care of our parents, built a good life. Nothing wrong with that." "The way I see it," added Marcus Williams, an Army veteran who'd done 2 tours in Iraq, "is that everybody serves in their own way. You raised a family, ran a business, contributed to your community. That matters too." Over coffee, I learned about the programs the VFW ran, supporting homeless veterans, helping with VA paperwork, organizing the annual scholarship fund for local high school students. "We could use help with the scholarship fund," George mentioned casually. "The committee meets on Wednesday evenings." "I don't know if I should." "Jack, you spent your whole life building a successful business. You know how to manage money and organize people. We need that skill set. It's not about whether you served. It's about whether you want to help those who did." I started attending the Wednesday meetings. The scholarship fund provided financial aid to graduating seniors planning to attend college or vocational school, with preference given to children and grandchildren of veterans. I discovered I had a knack for fundraising and organization. By early December, we'd exceeded our fundraising goal for the year. But more than that, I found something I didn't expect: community. These men, who'd experienced things I never had, welcomed me not as a veteran, but as a friend and supporter. They shared their stories, their struggles with PTSD and VA bureaucracy, their pride in their service despite the challenges. And they listened to my story too, without judgment, with understanding. One Wednesday evening, George pulled me aside. "You know, Jack, the Memorial Wall Committee is looking at adding a new section, a family memorial section to honor Gold Star families and military family members who've made sacrifices. Your brothers' names are already there, but we're thinking about adding the names of their family members too. Your mother, your father, Robert's wife, people who supported them." "That's a beautiful idea," I said. "Your name would be on there too, as a Gold Star family member. You lost a brother in service. That deserves recognition." I thought about it for a long moment. "I don't need my name on a wall, George, but I'd be honored to help make it happen for families like mine." Christmas came, and Emma asked if she could spend the day with me. We baked cookies using Catherine's old recipes, watched holiday movies, and in the evening I told her more stories about James and Robert. Not the sad stories of war and loss, but the good stories. James teaching me to throw a baseball, Robert helping me with my math homework, the time we all went camping and James convinced us we'd seen a bear when it was just a raccoon. "Grandpa," Emma said as Sarah was getting her ready to leave, "are you still sad that your name's not on the memorial wall?" "No, sweetheart, I'm not sad anymore, because I realized something important. It's not about having your name on a wall. It's about how you live your life and what you do for others. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure that veterans and their families are supported and honored." "That's good, Grandpa. I'm proud of you." Those 4 words from this child meant more than any medal ever could. On Veterans Day 2024, the new family memorial section of the wall was unveiled. My mother's name was there, my father's, Robert's wife, Linda, and yes, my name too, not as a veteran, but as a Gold Star brother, part of a military family that had sacrificed. Emma stood beside me holding my hand as the mayor spoke about the importance of recognizing that service and sacrifice extend beyond those who wear the uniform. Sarah stood on my other side, tears streaming down her face. When the ceremony ended, George came over and shook my hand. "You did good, Jack. Catherine would be proud." "I think she would be," I said, and for the first time in 50 years, I believed it. Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Grandpa, your name is on the wall now." "It is, honey. Does that make you happy?" I looked at the wall, at my family's names etched in stone, at the crowd of veterans and families gathered to remember and honor. I thought about the journey from that first question she'd asked a year ago to this moment, about the guilt I'd carried and the peace I'd finally found. "Yes, Emma, it makes me very happy, because it reminds me that everyone has a role to play, and it's never too late to find yours." She hugged me tight, and as I held my granddaughter close on that cold November morning, surrounded by the community I'd finally allowed myself to join, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades, at peace with my past and hopeful about my future. The memorial wall stood strong behind us, names carved in stone, a testament not just to those who served, but to all those who loved them, supported them, and carried the weight of their sacrifice. My name was there now not as a soldier, but as a brother, a son, a father, a grandfather, and a member of a community that understood that service takes many forms, and that, I finally understood, was enough.